students who are interested in the program, I think the most important thing that they could do is actually talk to our current students. And so if they're not sure who those people are, anyone in the humanities department can direct them. So I would encourage them to reach out to me, Caroline Boswell, via email or telephone, or to come to my office. And the same goes with Dr. Heidi Sherman and Dr. Jennifer Ham. We can put you in contact with students. A couple other things I'd recommend would be to visit our website to look at the curriculum, to see the degree to which the courses look interesting to them. But then ultimately to come sit and talk to us. I'd like to hear about what makes a student interested and to ensure that the program is going to serve their needs. And I know the same goes for my colleagues who I reference. So reaching out to us and then of course reaching out to our students I think would be central. I also could point students in directions of readings that I think are relevant that would introduce them to the digital and public humanities so they could have a better gauge on what precisely these things are and then ultimately where they want to intersect with them. I think that, well, first of all, I think that a degree in the humanities is valuable for all students, whether they're primarily humanities students, they're double majoring, or it's a minor. And I think that's because the humanities really ask us very complex questions about what it means to be human that ultimately inform most of what we do and how we kind of navigate the cultures and societies that we interact with. And so I think, first of all, the humanities are just generally, they make you a better person and they make you understand people who are not like you and have more empathy for those people. So I want to start with that caveat. When it comes to why potentially the digital and public humanities, whether a humanities major or a major in one of the humanities disciplines or, a totally different major like business administration, one of the things that I would think, if I was a student that would be of value, is the project-based work that you engage in, and that this project-based work is directed to support general engagement with the humanities, right? So students will complete projects based on their own interests within our classes that are about engaging the public in what we do as humanists, right? So they're not necessarily writing a paper for an instructor exclusively, though that's a very important skill to learn how to write well. They're thinking about how to conduct research that's of value to not only the student, but ultimately to the community. So it's a very empowering experience. It's very applied, right? So it's an applied form of learning. And ultimately, it can feel much more authentic when you're thinking about how is what I'm learning affecting the people I care about within my community? How do I devise questions about the experiences around me and the experiences of people I care about that have meaning to me, right? And I do think students interact with that in all sorts of humanities classes, but it's a primary focus of this major is to think about the kind of project-oriented applied work of humanists, whether they be museum curators, librarians, archivists, or whether they go into something completely different. That's a good question. So digital humanities is a relatively new field if you're looking at kind of the history of academia. And it started off as humanities computing. And what people in the humanities were interested in doing was thinking about how kind of the power of computing could be harnessed to better understand the complexity of what it meant to be a human. And so by that, I mean they're kind of using technological tools as another mechanism for analysis, right? So you could think of things like text mining, literature. You could think of digital mapping to understand kind of patterns in the ways in which societies have developed historically over time. There's a whole host of other examples. Whereas the public humanities is really more about investing the public in what it means to be human. So thinking about how we actually engage the community and partner with the community to think about what it means to be human, whether that's to think about the kind of histories within the community, to think about kind of the production of culture and the preservation of culture within the community. And what these two fields kind of bring together is a united desire to expand the capacity of the humanities to the largest community possible. So for example, using digital tools really enables you to intersect with communities that aren't physically present. But ultimately, when we're thinking about how do we actually engage the community, thinking about kind of, again, the power of technology and how the kind of interactivity of it enables that. So for example, like using games, right? Digital games to actually inform people about their community is one way in which it intersects. So digital public humanities is really thinking about how do we kind of harness the power of technology to engage the public in what we do as humanists, but really as true partners versus kind of just providing a service to your community. It's vital that it's a true partnership. And so I think that's very exciting because it's really thinking about how the humanities really is about more than just the university. It's about the kind of communities, broadly constructed that we intersect with. Well, the class I'm most excited about teaching is the practicum for Digital and Public Humanities, which is the capstone for our major. And I'm very excited to teach it for a whole host of reasons. First of all, it's a project-oriented class. The entire class is designed around engaging students in a digital and public humanities project. And I'm actually a 17th century British historian, so when I think about how do I ask students to interact with our public, it's a little tricky for me because we're not going to be intersecting with the 17th century British public. But one of the things that I study is the way in which people conceive of criminality and deviance in the 17th century. And so I've worked very closely with the archivist at the University Archives, Deb Anderson, to design a class in which the students will look at Brown County court records to think about the various ways in which conceptions of criminality and deviance worked within our community. And so what the students will be doing will be going through those records to design a question that they may ask of them. And then once that question is designed, the students actually will have to create a navigable database of those records for other people to engage with, as well as produce content, humanities content for people to engage in that's based on their own database.